Battlefield Bad Company 2 has historically been seen as one of the best multiplayer first-person shooter experiences of all time. But as multiplayer elements die out, the true lasting legacy of a game will have to be the story that's included in the offline mode. While there is a continuity error between the original game and this game, you don't really need to have played the original in order to enjoy this game, which is really good and excellent writing. To put it simply, the game's main protagonist finds himself in the midst of a bunch of army rejects, and comedy ensues. The overall tone of the background conflict in this game does feel more serious than the original, but our characters have interesting and diverse personalities that does provide for some entertainment, though perhaps a little bit weaker narratively than some of its contemporaries of the time. The gameplay, however, hasn't aged the best. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of good parts. For example, the amount of level destruction is pretty cool and forces you from cover to cover, and enhances difficulty in a more natural way than just dumping grenades into your location. I do think there's a little too much of a kick in the weapons, which is enhanced by the lack of a manual fire select, and hurt my admittedly rusty accuracy. With a lack of iron sights for the shotgun and the car chase segments, which you have barely any visibility, the game does a pretty good job blatantly reminding you that this is still the tail end of the awkward transition from older 6th generation first-person shooters into the modern era. Luckily, AI allies actually put in work, but the enemies do feel cheap at times, often focusing on you particularly, especially with explosives, which often had me pinned down for long periods while my squad would eventually sweep those exposed enemies. Visually, I think Bad Company 2 has aged okay. I think there's a little bit too much bloom, and the colors are a bit washed out, but for the most part it looks pretty good and has a healthy amount of color, narrowly separating it from the brown and grays that were common in the era. Sound design is also pretty good, and I don't really have any complaints about the gun sounds. Voice acting is also pretty solid, and something that they perhaps should have used a little bit more outside of cutscenes. I do appreciate the lack of hand-holding, as they do keep callouts to a minimum, but perhaps adding some dialogue occasionally about their own kills or directions that they're going to go would have been handy for my more sniper approach this time around. Unfortunately, Bad Company 2 doesn't do all that well in accessibility. While there are subtitles, there's no in-game way to change either the written or spoken languages. There are 3 difficulties, but once you've started the campaign, there's no way to change it. Buttons are remappable on mouse and keyboard, but there's no built-in controller support. As for convenience, I'd say that Bad Company 2 is about average. It is available on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, as well as being available digitally on Steam and the EA stores. Now, I'm not super impressed by the menu layout, but there definitely is enough that should allow for most players to play the game, even including the color blindness mode I forgot to mention in accessibility. I only found one minor scripting bug in one of the chase segments, which seems to have registered me as being killed the very moment the scripted car crash takes place, which made me have to play the whole sequence again. I also experienced a soft crash or freeze on my laptop, though this may not be the game's fault, as my laptop has been acting oddly lately, and specifically on the day I was capturing most of this footage. So keeping that in mind, I'm not going to hold it against the game, but it's something that I need to keep in mind going forward, especially as I'm having to do more of these using my laptop. While it is a shame that the online experience of Bad Company 2 is basically dead, I do think that the single player offers enough to warrant looking at it. While there are definitely some bizarre design choices that have made it age a bit poorly, it's kinda in the same boat as Medal of Honor for me, only this time the story is better and the gameplay is worse. And keeping that in mind, I think it earns a meh. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. Check out my last review on Oblivion Remastered and consider subscribing. Until then, this has been Rob the Slob, and I'll see you in the virtual commute.